Ron Aledo is a U.S. Army veteran. He's also an ex-CIA contractor. I mean, talk about an insider. Talk about a guy who knows exactly about what we have been talking about on this day. Ron, good to see you, my friend.
Hello, hello. Very nice to see you today. Thank you for the invitation.
I can't help but ask, you watched my friend George Galloway tell that poor guy who probably doesn't know. I'm sure he's a very nice man, but he just doesn't know, like a lot of people in the West and a lot of people in the UK and in the United States. The media feeds them this narrative that all these countries are taking over the world, when in fact, I think most of them live in a country that is in fact trying to take over the world. What did you think of that exchange with Galloway? Is he right?
Well, obviously, George Galloway is a person who understands geopolitics and understands world history, understands that Hong Kong has been part of China, was temporarily under British control, but came back home, came back to his natural status as a Chinese territory, and obviously the other person have no idea he was talking about. The thing, but I don't blame him. The thing is the narrative in the press, the narrative in the media, especially since 2022, when we have the military operation of Russia against Ukraine. We have constant repetition from all the media, from all the propaganda media, from all the neocons, from the governments of the post-Christian West, as I call it, just with 24/7 brainwashing the public and telling us that after Ukraine, Russia is going to come and go after Berlin and after London and after Paris and invade the whole continent. Well, obviously that makes no sense. But people in the street, they don't know better. They just go with the propaganda, what the media tell them day and night.
And that's what's cool. You know, you're there. You're in my hometown. You're in Miami. You're a Miami guy. I'm a Miami guy. We're both Latinos, Hispanics. You know, my dad always told me when I was a little boy, I grew up with a father who was not like maybe other Cubans, you know. He actually grew up poor. He had to leave school in 4th grade. And he always said to me, he said, you know, son, the United States is a really wonderful country, and we appreciate the fact that we were able to go to the United States, and in many ways, there's much virtue there. But I will tell you, as a citizen of one of the countries in Latin America, that the things that the United States has done in Latin America are absolutely deplorable, and very few people and nobody in the media understands it. But the things that the United States has done in countries like Guatemala, where they started or fomented a civil war that killed 200,000 people, tried to assassinate the leaders in Cuba, what they've done in Panama, what they've done in Santo Domingo and Dominican Republic, and I could go on and on. I mean, these are stories that I don't say because I want to be critical of the United States. I say them because they're factual, and we should know that so that we can learn from them for the sake of the future, for the sake of our children. Do you not agree?
Well, my viewpoint is that something that should have ended 30 years ago did not end. The neocon worldview, the globalist worldview, and when I'm talking about the mainstream Republican Party and the mainstream Democratic Party, also they are the same. They basically are the same.
Yeah.
They did not see the mission of the United States as only stop the Soviet Union during the Cold War that ended in the early 90s. In their mind, they see their mission to dominate globally. We are the only superpower in the 90s. The whole world should be with us or against us, and whoever is not with us, we are going to banish them, we're going to destroy them, we're going to repress them, we're going to sanction to death, economic war, and the war is ours. I mean, Libya, Iraq #1, Iraq #2 in 2003. This imperial mindset, there only can be space for one superpower. There can be space in the world for one vision, the globalist, secularist, liberal vision of the United States. And that is where the neocons don't understand the reality of a multipolar war with a superpower, economic superpower in China, with a military superpower, nuclear superpower in Russia, with different centers of gravity around the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the Helmut Kohl, the famous chancellor of Germany, is one of his most closest advisors, a person who was with Helmut Kohl for many, many years, once said, I mean, a couple of years ago, it's very strange to deal with Americans. And he was talking after the Cold War. He was not talking during the Cold War, during the Soviet Union America. After the Cold War, he said, dealing with Americans is extremely strange and hard, because if you do exactly what they tell you to do, they will hug you and hug you and hug you and break your bones with the hug. Yeah. But if you dare to say, I have a different opinion, I don't agree with that, then they look at you, how dare you? How dare you? No, not agreeing with us. And I'm not talking about a left wing, a socialist. I'm talking about a conservative person from the conservative CDU party of Germany. He realized that in the 90s, instead of, okay, the Cold War end, that's it, it should be a new page in history, maybe, and there is a lot of history about that, a lot of evidence that Russia wanted to join NATO at the time, in the 2000s. But everybody spit in the open hand of Russia back in the early 2000s. Putin gave it to them as an open hand in friendship, and they spit on the hand of Russia. No, we don't need you. We only need one superpower, that's us. Everybody has to do our way or the highway. And that is the problem with the neocons, with the globalists. They don't understand the different balances of powers in the world.
Yeah, no, you're right, because, you know, the picture you just drew is interesting. I mean, in my mind, as you were talking, I was seeing Nixon in China and thinking, wow, what a wonderful promise that could turn into. And it was a wonderful promise in many ways economically for the Chinese people, because they created the most unbelievably significant and fast-growing economy perhaps in the history of the world. But then somehow the United States decided to turn on them. And again, it was all about dominion of the world in many ways. Same thing, you know, the Cold War ends, the wall comes down in Berlin, and we're thinking, wow, Russia and the United States are from now on going to be friends. Everything, the chips were in place, the dominoes were in place for that to become just that. And then somebody had to come and just throw something on it and knock it all down and say, no. We don't want to be friends with these people. So you're right. It's all about this unbelievable promise that existed that suddenly just was completely ramshackled, destroyed by who? You worked at the CIA. What was this a narrative that you heard? Did you see it discussed? Was it that out in the open? In closed doors in the CIA building and other places like that?
Well, obviously the CIA had a warrior mindset long before I was there. And it was the mindset of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the Reagan mindset. Obviously, we're going to fight communism. We're going to fight a Cuban influence in Latin America. We're going to fight the Warsaw Pact, the communism. But again, all that ended in the 90s. In the 90s, it was a golden opportunity for reconciliation, because obviously the Warsaw Pact went extinct, didn't exist. The Soviet Union disintegrated.
So why didn't it? So why didn't it? So, okay, perfect. You got us to 1991. The Soviet Union falls. Perfect opportunity for, kumbaya. Have a kumbaya moment, and the world is a better place, and all our children and grandchildren get to live in peace freely. Why not? What was so horrible about that? And who made that decision to make it such a horrible thing?
The John McCain's, rest in peace, the John McCain, the Lindsey Graham of the war did not, and like Ted Cruz of the war, like Senator Cottons of the war, did not accept that reality. They do not accept, okay, let's going to pass page. Let's going to open a new page in the history of the war. Let's going to accept Russia. The Communist Party is not ruling Russia anymore. It's a a small opposition party. The different of the war have changed so much. We can come together, but in the mindset of the neocons, on the mindset of the globalists, on the mindset of the Dick Cheneys of the world, that was not possible. We won, and therefore we have the right to dominate everything, and everybody, Europe, Latin America, Asia, just should do whatever we tell them to do in an imperialistic way. That is the mindset of the neocon. And listen, you only have to see the speech. You only have to see what they said. Mike Pence, the vice president of the United States, who was the vice president of the United States for 4 years, just a couple of years ago was in a debate. And he was saying, not because Russia and how evil Russia was, they invade Czechoslovakia and they invade Hungary. And it was Vivek Ramaswamy, the child of Indian immigrants who have to correct him on camera in front of the world. Mr. Vice President Pence, that was not Russia. That was the Soviet Union. And the Soviet Union doesn't exist anymore. It was disintegrated 30 years ago in front of the world. But the neocons don't know this. The neocons don't understand it. In their minds, we're still in 1984. And it's them against us. And if you are not with us, you can go out of the way, because we are going to do our way, even if you like it or not.
You know, it's interesting you say that, because in many ways, those same people have been there all along. But it's not just them because they're famous. Then there's the people we don't know who've also been there all along. They were in the Obama administration. They were in the Bush administration. They were in the Reagan administration. They were in the Carter administration. They went on to be in the Trump administration. Same people in the background making the same decision for all of those years. It's funny, isn't it?
I mean, and the problem is you have people who don't know anything writing the laws. People who don't know anything tell us the United States where it should go, telling the whole world what they must do. And that is the problem. You have no notice. This is what the great philosopher and mathematician Nassim Taleb said. The war is dominated by intellectual yet idiots. Intellectual yet idiots, people in the press, in the media, in the government who have very little awareness of what really is going on, who have very little awareness of geopolitics, of the realities, of the center of gravities around the world, but they are the one ruling us. And let me tell you something, there were some good people. There were some good people all across with a voice. Okay, I'm talking about people like Pat Buchanan. There were some good people that today, like Tucker Carlson.
Wait. I'm glad you mentioned Buchanan. You just took me to where my mind was going as I was listening to you discuss what happened in the United States from 1990 to today, and how the United States became even more rigid in its desire to make more money off of wars and to dominate the world. Good point. Lately, I started thinking a lot about this, and I never thought like this before. But because of the news cycle and because what's going on in Gaza, I started figuring out that a lot of these decisions that you just told us about and a lot of the things that happened may have been driven not in Washington, but in Jerusalem by people who were actually calling the shots in some of the places that you just mentioned where we have gone to war. Maybe not in all of them, but certainly in a lot of them. So my question to you, given that Pat Buchanan was destroyed by Zionists for simply saying that we need to respect ourselves more than we respected Israel, and that there were too many people who were influenced by Israel in the U.S. Congress. And as soon as he said that, Pat Buchanan was destroyed by the media. So I guess my question to you, how much has Israel had to do with this situation, this desire for the United States to be everybody's enemy by trying to be everybody's ruler?
Well, the way I see it, it goes in two different ways. Different ways. In 1996, the Clinton administration, and this is plenty of evidence about this, they were looking into join or push for NATO expansion to the east. And half of the people, good people who actually was able to think about it, told Clinton,
like Professor Jeffrey Sachs. Was there.
People like Jeffrey Sachs, of
Correct.
course. And people that belong to the administration. And there were a famous letter of 50 intellectuals, former diplomats, former military people that wrote a letter to Clinton in that time, in 1996, 97, to not do it. You are poking in the eye the Russian bear. You are doing a provocation, an unnecessary provocation. Don't do it. But there was the other side of the Clinton administration that told him, do it. We won the Cold War. We deserve it. and by expanding NATO, we can expand our influence. We can control. We can keep like pulling the strings in all those little poor countries on the east. And ever since Clinton said, okay, let's do that, he haven't stopped. He haven't stopped with the expansion of NATO, with the expansion with the control. Let's going to control Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania and Poland and Hungary, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they don't need anything else but that their ideology to continue the globalist neocon expansion in Europe. Now, about the Holy Land, about Palestine, that is a completely different thing. For Europe and for Asia, they only need their ideology. But for the Holy Land, for Palestine, it's a different thing. It's a very completely different thing. They need good money and they need the good blessing of AIPAC. That's it. Yeah. And if you don't have the good blessing of AIPAC, the politician in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, you are dead as a politician in America.
Well, let me ask you this then. How was it that the Zionist movement and the Zionist power brokers ended up in a beautiful marriage, in bed, we should say, with the military neocon types, right? So how did that happen? And you know who they are. I could give you their names. We could go through the list, but that would bore people since they probably don't know who they are. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I don't want to bore you or the viewers, but basically there are 2 points. Again, the AIPAC and all the propaganda, they go back to the 80s. And they try to keep us permanently in the 80s, in 1984. Yeah. And Palestine or the Palestinians, they were not a freedom movement that was a nation supported by the Holy See, supported by the popes, supported by Paul VI, supported by John Paul II. Nothing like that. They were communists, period. Arafat was a communist and part of the Soviet Union. And that's hammering the mind. Then came September 11. The worst terrorists are the Palestinians. Forget about Al-Qaeda, forget about the Islamic State. And you can see the clips of all the propaganda people say, Al-Qaeda, Islamic State, and the Palestinians. Those are the terrible Islamists. They want to bomb New York. They want to bomb Paris. They want to bomb Houston. They want to bomb Chicago.
I remember. I covered it.
And then those are the 2 main factors. And then came the factor of let's going to brainwash a big segment of the population of the United States. And I'm talking about the Bible Belt. I'm talking about the base of the Republican Party, the religious right, conservative social right, that is the Bible Belt in the South, in Alabama, in Tennessee, in Arkansas, in Kansas, in Florida, in Texas. Let's go and bring what? Let's say that we support Christianity. That is the duty of every Christian to support us, because if you don't support us, you go to hell. And I'm not inventing this. You only have to see the amazing interview that Tucker Carlson did with Senator Ted Cruz. And that was his words. I came to the Senate to help
to serve Israel.
And I have to bless Israel because I want to be blessed by God. So they joined the propaganda from the Cold War, the propaganda. They joined the Palestinians. Even if you're an atheist Palestinian, even if you're a Christian Palestinian, even if you're an agnostic Palestinian, you're still an Islamic terrorist. That's number 2. And number 3, they joined that with the religious right, with dispensationalism, with the Christian Zionism heresy, and they have in their pocket a large amount of the population. Yeah. Plus, no one in the Senate, no one in the House of Representatives, with very, very few exceptions, is willing to say anything because they know that they need AIPAC funds to win, to keep their seat in the U.S. Congress.
Yeah, there was something, everything that you just said makes me think of the Project for the New American Century. The Project for a New American Century was exactly that. It was a coalition of extreme Zionists, Kagan and others, combined with extreme neocons, combined with, religious right crazies, who all came together and decided it was time for America to truly control the world, and that we would do it preemptively. We wouldn't wait for countries to become dangerous. We would attack them if we thought they might become dangerous, which was their explanation for going to war in Iraq, for example. And ever since then, we've seen this kind of thing all over the place. For example, when we took out Soleimani in Iran, or when we recently just bombed Iran for no damn reason other than, well, Israel needed us to do it. This would not have happened in the past without some kind of pushback. But where the hell, Ron, is the pushback today?
Well, very few people want to talk about the subject, especially of the Holy Line. That's extremely sensitive.
Not anymore. Not anymore. No. I just did a segment on this. You know what? I think Americans are sick and tired of this crap. I know I am. You know, children's schools in America have paint peeling, none in Israel. Shiny, clean, new paint. Americans don't have health care. They got it in Israel. I mean, everything that Israel needs, they come to Rick Sanchez and Ron Aledo and have them write checks for their taxes, take that money and send it to Israel. And Americans watching what Israel are doing in Gaza are sick and tired of this. And you can't just say, oh, Ron Aledo's an anti-Semite, Rick Sanchez is an anti-Semite. That doesn't work anymore. It's not going to work anymore. I think Americans know. You heard Joe Rogan last week say the same thing. He says, bull crap. No, I'm not an anti-Semite, and I don't like what I'm seeing. And I don't like my money going over there. So am I wrong? Right. Am I wrong?
No. You are absolutely right. It has been an awakening. Let's call it that way. In the last year and a half. In politics, in Capitol Hill, only very few people. Macy, Representative Macy, Majority Taylor Greene. In the media, perhaps we have Tucker Carlson, a very courageous, a smart guy. We have Candace Owens, a brilliant woman who is talking this. And we have seen that there have been dissent. And the talking point, the propaganda are not working as normal. Still, again, we have people like Huckabee in the ambassador. Yeah. Why do you think he was chosen for that position? Because of his religious ideology.
Yeah, and
that's too, but his religious ideology. And the apology that Ted Cruz did when he talked to Tucker Carlson was a religious ideology. And of course, he wants AIPAC to bless him. But again, he's extremely strong to go against that. If you want power, if you want political power in the United States to go in Capitol Hill, you need to play the game. Otherwise, you're going to be out. And people know that, sadly.
Hey, let me ask you, since you're there now and I'm not, I'm here in Moscow and you're in my hometown. I've always thought Miami's an interesting place. Miami's kind of ahead of the curve and always behind the curve. And in Miami, because we're Latinos, you know, we've always tended to vote more Republican because, you know, it's more of an anti-communist thing. And I get all that, and I think it's perfectly fine. And many of them supported Mr. Trump, religiously almost, because they believe he was a tough guy and he was saying all the right things. But it seems like a lot of Americans are now looking at Mr. Trump, and I'm wondering if they're doing the same thing in Miami and saying, wait a minute, man, you said you were going to be transparent. You said you weren't going to get us into wars. You said a lot of things that you haven't been doing. It's turning out that you're doing the very same thing that Obama did and Clinton did and Bush did. And what happened? I know Americans are asking this question because obviously I read the papers and talk to people. Is Miami that way too?
Well, he still have obviously a great support among the base, here in Miami. But Miami, like in the whole of the United States, there have been dissent. There's going to be dissent in the base for Trump, because some people, and again, I'm coming back to Marjorie Taylor Greene and going back to Representative Macy and going back to Tucker Carlson, to Candace Owens. It have been dissent. I say, hey, you came with America first, but for what we are seeing, you have other countries first in your mind.
Yes.
You are still funding foreign wars out there. You're still bombing foreign countries. What about the people here in Florida,
Yes.
right? Or Wyoming or Wisconsin? What about them? You sell America first, but what we see with our eyes is not exactly American first. So that is a problem. That's dissent inside the ranks. That's a dissent, a strong dissent. I mean, Tucker Carlson is followed by a lot of people in the base of the Republican Party, and they can see that dissent. The second thing, obviously, some people that don't agree with Trump is doing as far as going overboard, cutting federal jobs, with perhaps taking away, deporting people who were here legally, just revoking their
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. You're Hispanic. I'm Hispanic. My parents, I'm an immigrant. I came to the United States as an immigrant. At the age of 18, I became a citizen of the United States and changed my name from Ricardo to Richard. And I'm proud of that. And I think it's a great story. But it saddens me because I think there's a lot of other young Ricardos out there, a lot of other Ron Aledos out there who, given the opportunity, would be able to do the same things that, you're proud to have become one of the leaders of the United States, CIA, Army veteran. Your whole story is so impressive. I think there's a lot of other people out there who could do the same thing. And while I'm not saying that we should have open borders, and while I'm not saying that we shouldn't find the criminals and take them away, that's not what I'm seeing. When you go to stores, Home Depot, and take people who are just here in the United States and they want to work, and grandmothers and children, that's not a pretty picture. And that's not what we were expecting when he said he was going to control immigration. That seems cruel to me. To you?
No, I mean, you're right. That's another point in the dissent, especially among the Venezuelan community that I have seen here in Miami. Not that much in the Cuban community, but in the Venezuelan community, is that perhaps they are overdoing it. Okay, and a lot of the Hispanic community, not in Texas, obviously, and not in the Southwest, not in Arizona, but here in Florida, a lot of the Hispanic community supported the agenda of Trump. Okay, let's get rid of 15 million people that came under Biden illegally, that are overcrowding the job positions. Many of them are in welfare. Many of them are not working. Let's get rid of the Mara Salvatrucha. They're 15. Okay, got it.
Of course.
That's okay. But when they see overdoing it and going after people who are here legally with visas and are here with refugee visas, that are studying, that I know people that are in college, that are university students, and now they don't know if they will continue with their university students. So that makes people think, okay, maybe Trump is overdoing it. I understand that he goes against a MS-13 person with a very long criminal record. That's good. But why he should go against a university student that is here studying in college? That makes people think and pause a little bit.
It looks lazy. It looks cheap. I mean, if you really want to do this right, do a police action. Go in and find out who the criminals are, send out people with warrants, get them the hell out of the United States. Totally agree. But to send agents wearing masks with machine guns into a little store somewhere to get some grandmother and some people who are just trying to make a living, it looks Nazi-ish. It looks like Germany in 1942, and I don't like it. Not to overjudge it, but final point on this, and this is an important point. And I think you're going to understand this. Part of the discussion about immigration in America seems half-witted. Let me explain myself. In many ways, the reason some of those people are in America was because the U.S. foreign policy caused them to go to America. They would have been very happy staying in Guatemala. They would have been very happy staying in Colombia. They would have been very happy staying in a lot of countries in Latin America had the U.S. foreign policy not gone in and fomented a coup, destroyed their businesses, or done whatever it is that they've done, maybe even with our economic policy that said that the United States would be able to put tariffs on a lot of the goods that were coming out of that country, or actually incentivize American companies to put their products in Latin America so that American products weren't worth anything. So there's a lot of things that America has done with its policies that have caused this immigration to come to the United States. And all I'm saying, Ron, is nobody ever talks about that. Nobody in the media, nobody in politics. And it's important.
Well, obviously, it's a complex issue where we have to go back 40 years ago, 50 years ago. We have to go back to we have to go back to the 50s and 40s, where the big Puerto Rican migration came to New York. And then where all during the Cold War, there were so many conflicts, and sometimes the United States were promoting the migration to the United States for refugees, for people escaping the war, for people escaping civil war,
Honduras,
et cetera, et cetera.
Honduras, Nicaragua,
So, yeah, I mean, we have that, obviously, in Cuba, in Nicaragua, Venezuela. You can go to any place now in Latin America. You can go I was in Peru a few months ago, and they told me, oh, all this neighborhood is now Venezuela. And I went, wow, okay. So Venezuelans in Lima, in Peru, and in Chile, there are hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's unbelievable. But the thing is this, it's a complex socio-economical analysis that we have to go 30, 40, 50 years behind. Now, what most of the Republican Party and most of the Trump supporters did, including myself, we were looking for Trump to reverse the open borders of Biden and Kamala Harris, because they came with an agenda. As soon as Biden took office in January of 2021, just immediately he took office as president, immediately he declared open borders. And then he was trying to make his base happy. His base, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders and all these groups. And people believe, they don't have a real calculation, but they believe that about 15 million people came into the United States. And we don't know who those people are. Actually, they came illegally. And sometimes people went out at the border, and they told them, hey, let's going to have we're going to see your case in court in 1 month. Yeah. But you can come inside now. Don't worry. In 1 month, just show up in the court. Yeah. Nobody showed up in the court. They were already in the United States.
Listen, you're not going to get an argument with me that the border needs to be better controlled. Yeah. I mean,
so that was the main hot issue of the elections. The thing, again, the dissent is when we see that Trump is overdoing it. He's just not doing it against people who is here illegally. He's also revoking visas of people who were here legally. Including university students, people who is working, and that is where the people here in Miami is having a problem with that specific factor.
Because he has people working for him, or have people who've hired, or just doing it the easy way without having to do the hard work of looking for the actual names and looking for court records, because that would take a while. It's easier to just take a couple of guys, put on some masks, give them a machine gun, show up at a place where a bunch of Hispanics are eating lunch, and put them all on a wagon and take them away. And then in the process, you find out that two of them were here legally. Oh, oops, sorry, we made a mistake. Well, that just is not a good look, and that's probably the point to be made. Ron, we have run out of time, my friend. Let me thank you so much for taking time to talk to us. You know, yours is a very important voice. And, you know, all we're trying to do here is give people a chance to understand what's really going on in the world, because if we left it up to the CNNs of the world, nobody would know anything about what's really going on. And I can add, by the way, Fox News, the BBC, the New York Times, and many others. I don't know why I always pick on CNN, maybe because they fired me. So, but thank you, my friend. It's always good to see you.
Very, very nice to be with you. We have to be very alert during the next days, because the globalists are not done. The neocons are not done. Now that we have this meeting in Alaska between Putin and Trump, they're going to push very hard to make their way in and influence Trump. So the next day are going to be very decisive, believe it or not, for the history of Europe, the United States, and Russia. So we need to be very alert during the next days, and to be very alert of what's happening in Alaska. So thank you very much for the invitation, and I will see you then next time.
And I agree with you, by the way. I am optimistic, because I always am. I'm a glass half full guy. So I'm looking at that situation in Alaska, and I am hoping for the best. But I'm also not foolish enough to think that after everything that's happened between Russia and the United States, as you well explained just a little while ago, that they're going to come out of there with kumbaya, hugging and embracing. We'll see. I hope that I'm wrong. Thank you, Ron. We appreciate it, my friend.